Hi, everyone. I see people are joining. Welcome. We will begin shortly, and we're very happy to have you here. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. People are still connecting, so if it's all right, we're going to give them 1 more minute to join, and then we'll begin. Okay, everyone, let's begin. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. On behalf of your host, Engineering USA, together with partners Clarity and Siemens Government Technologies, I want to welcome you to our webinar entitled How Secure is Your Plant? A Holistic OT Cybersecurity Toolkit for Industry 4.0. Engineering USA is the North American business branch of the Engineering Group, a global leader in digital transformation. The group manages projects in over 20 countries by designing and implementing technology solutions for the business areas where digitalization is having the biggest impact today, including augmented cities, digital industry, smart energy, and smart transportation. Together, our 12,000 employees worldwide are transforming the world in which we live, the world in which we work, and the world that looks after us. Engineering USA is based in downtown Chicago, but our team of specialists delivers technology solutions and system integration services to industrial leaders across the US, Mexico, and Canada. As part of the Industry's Excellence Global Division, we are experts in all things related to Industry 4.0 and digital manufacturing, and we can support our manufacturing and transportation customers across the entire life cycle of their products and processes. We are here today to talk about the security of your OT, or operational technology, meaning the technology upon which your operations depend. OT security is becoming a major priority for all industrial organizations today. In the next 45 minutes, we will explore the current landscape that has brought us here today, Engineering USA's unique solution and service approach to cybersecurity, the Clarity platform, the Siemens Cyber Protect platform, and how you can begin your cybersecurity journey. Q&A will end the webinar. You can submit your questions throughout via the questions section in your toolbar. If you are having technical difficulties, please share that feedback in the questions section as well. These are your speakers for today, truly our top experts in the industrial cybersecurity space. Your first speaker will be Maurizio Milazzo, Engineering Group's Global Director of OT Security, who will pick up the mic right after this short video to set the tone. This is about 0 days and the Stuxnet virus, a documentary I highly recommend if the topic is of interest to you. and you haven't seen it yet.
If you get up in the morning and turn off your alarm and make coffee,
power plants, power grids,
and pump gas,
transportation, telecommunication,
and use the ATM, you've touched industrial control systems. It's what powers our lives.
Most of these systems are relatively easy for a sophisticated hacker to get into.
The security experts who are studying Stuxnet really think it required the resources of a nation state.
It spread to any Windows machine in the entire world.
We didn't know if it was set to turn off all electricity plants around the world, or it would start shutting things down or launching some attack.
It was blowing up centrifuges, and it was leaving no trace.
There have been assassinations of nuclear scientists.
Some human assets had to be involved. Spies.
It went beyond our worst fears, our worst nightmares.
This is not your ordinary criminal doing this. This is someone bigger.
The monster turned against its creators, and now everyone is in this game.
This has the whiff of August 1945. Somebody just used a new weapon, and this weapon will not be put back into the box.
Okay, Maurizio, I'm handing it over to you. So unmute yourself, okay? Maurizio? Maurizio, we can't hear you. You have to unmute yourself, okay? Hello?
Oh, now it's okay, thanks. Hi, Divya, thanks for your introduction, and welcome to all the attendees. Control system are a target. So recently, SANS Institute advised that control system are a target. There are many different ways attackers can gain access to an ICS environment. So active security efforts are needed, improving the cybersecurity posture. Compliance to industrial cybersecurity standards and regulations, the implementation of an OT security solution, and the ICS engineering training are mandatory activities to reinforce secure behavior when interacting with an industrial control system. In 2019, Forrester survey regarding manufacturing companies found that 55% of respondents have no confidence of what devices exist in their ICS network. 66% of manufacturing have experienced an IoT-related security incident, and 76% of manufacturing feel their current security practices are not adequate. So the survey shows that industrial organizations need to improve their vulnerability management cultural approach, integrating a market leader solution for anomaly detection, protection, and recovery, increasing their cybersecurity posture. Next, please. Oh, yeah, a recent Gartner survey oriented to understand the industrial organization security maturity level found that 60% of respondents are in phase 1, the awareness. In this phase, new priorities and focus arise. 30% of respondents are in phase 3, the oh wow moment. This stage often involves a proof of value as eye-openers. The decision point is at the end of phase 4 and before phase 5. This is the integration time when OT security is integrated and coordinated with IT and security governance activities, monitoring and reporting. 10% of respondents are at the end of the integration before the optimization phase, when organizations realize the unprecedented value of visibility that improve their cybersecurity posture. The Gartner survey found also that greater focus on building operational resilience was the top answer when asked for the top risk management areas that organizations are likely to prioritize because of the crisis. A cyber resilience strategy can really help the business to mitigate or avoid risks, reduce financial impact and reputational damages. Next, please. Cyber attacks. Every industrial organization is exposed. Custom attacks not only target critical infrastructures, but the malware could find its way into your industrial network and stop all your operations. Cyber attacks on industrial plants can happen every day, so the plant manager has not to ask himself if the plant will receive an attack, but when. Next, please. A cyber attack can impact, for example, on business continuity involving the plant shutdown, can affect confidentiality with the lack of data and information from the production process, can alter safety because threats may involve the alteration or inhibition of safety functions present on machines, plants, or environments, can create environment problems or modify production quality. Next, please. Talking about resiliency, an industrial cybersecurity platform has to provide full visibility, threat detection, risk and vulnerability management, and secure remote access controls for industrial networks. These controls empower customers to reveal and protect their operations, detect and respond to the earliest indicators of known and emerging threats to the assets, and extend their existing enterprise security and risk infrastructures and programs to the industrial network. Next, please. Risk versus opportunities. If you don't know about the vulnerabilities in your operations and you don't take care to mitigate it, implementing the right countermeasures, your production or service provisioning is unpredictable. An OT cyber attack can cost to the organizations millions of dollars, so it's better to avoid that. This can happen, including the OT security risk plan in the company overall risk management program. Plus to this, visibility, protection, detection, and recovery of your operations can provide support to share meaningful information with other teams, for example, in operations and engineering, maintenance, compliance, procurement, and C-suite, turning a security cost center investment discussion into a business enabling conversation. Next, please. At Engineering USA, we want to support our customers to guarantee their infrastructure availability and reliability, avoiding plant downtime and degradation of services. To do this, we are able to implement the best OT market leader solutions like Clarity Threat Detection and Siemens Cyber Protect, in agreement with the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, where the 5 functions are representing the 5 primary pillars for a successful and holistic cybersecurity program. Thanks, Zivild. Now, John, it's your time.
Thank you, Maurizio. Thank you all for joining us for today's webinar. My name is John Bataille, and I am a Senior Solution Analyst here at Engineering USA. Now that you've received that overview from Maurizio, let's talk about what you need to do to protect your OT systems and how you can do it. The goal of OT security today is to get visibility and to understand what your assets are, what your network looks like, the risks and vulnerabilities associated with them, and steps you can take to protect your assets and networks. Once you have that visibility, you need to continually monitor your OT systems, remediate and mitigate threats, and respond to attacks when they occur. And now, particularly with the pandemic, enabling secure remote access is critical for your plants to continue to be successful. So let's talk about how Engineering USA can help you achieve your OT security goals. Next, please. So to achieve OT security, you need to identify, detect, protect, respond, and recover from OT threats and cyber attacks. The first step in understanding your OT security posture is to do an assessment of your systems. Once you understand the risks and vulnerabilities of your system, you can begin to improve the security of the systems. Once you gain visibility, you need to continually identify, detect, and protect your OT assets from the risks posed by security threats and vulnerabilities. Our partner Clarity will offer some insights into how you can do this. While being proactive at monitoring and remediating risks and vulnerabilities, you need to prepare to respond to cyber attacks when they occur. And for this task, we offer a unique approach, which our partner Siemens will offer some insight into. In addition to these activities, you can plan to take steps for your users to securely and remotely access your plants without increasing the risks to your OT systems. Combined, these solutions provide you with a holistic approach to address the challenges of OT security. Now, I will pass the torch on to our partners, Bernie Pella from Clarity, who will present the Clarity platform, and Wayne Cantrell, who will present the Siemens platform. Bernie will also provide a live demonstration on how you can use Clarity to protect your networks.
Hello, I'm Bernie Pella with Clarity. Been in the industrial control systems world for about 30 years, 15 years in OT cybersecurity. I'm a Navy nuke submariner, and I've been with Clarity about 4 years. I'm located in Tampa, Florida, and it is a rainy season here, and there's thunderstorms coming through, but I hope we can get through this without power or something going out. So, thank you. I was just going there. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about our Clarity Continuous Threat Detection product, which is, we call it CTD. And it is ideally suited and built specifically for industrial control system networks. And it gives you a perspective of your vulnerabilities, vulnerability management, threat detection, the threat intelligence and visibility associated with those threats and actually risks in your system, risk management. And then we also have another product I will not be discussing other than just to mention we have it, is our secure remote access, which is something that comes in real handy now since everybody is doing remote access into their systems. Next, please. So Clarity is, our CTD product is primarily a passive way of looking at your control system. We use a span port configured into like an edge, root, or core switch in your control system network. Span port then sends out the network traffic to our CTD platform, which is software sitting on some sort of appliance or virtual machine. We decipher that traffic and then are able to build various different information out of all that network traffic. We have deciphered somewhere around 175 of the 250 different OT protocols that are out there. The only reason we haven't deciphered the others is we've never seen them in the wild. But from here, then, what we see the protocols for, I'll call it regular OT type stuff, excuse me, which is, you know, your SCADA systems, your DCS systems, PLCs, but also then we're able to see your industrial IoT stuff because it comes in through the network and they're using other protocols that we're seeing. And then also even things like elevators and HVAC systems. So your entire building automation, building management system. And then, you know, the other kinds of Internet of Things, which are, you know, like your video systems and key readers and stuff like that. So basically we look at all the traffic in the network and decipher it and determine what's going on with that traffic. Next slide, please. So from here, you know, just real quick on the secure remote access, it gives you a way to actually log in remotely from the internet into the whole way into the control system using a secure tunnel. And that way, you know what's going on. It scrubs that data to make sure that everything's going on. So next slide, please. Okay, so now I'm going to be doing a demo here, and I got to figure out how to. There we go. Show my screen. Okay,
Yep, we can see it, Bernie.
Okay, so you can see my CTD now, correct?
We see a desktop, yes.
You can see a desktop.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you seeing the actual CTD platform?
Yeah, right now I am, yep. You just
Now you can. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I have dual monitors, so it always gets messy. So this is the actual CTD platform. I have a very large PCAP file that I've pulled into this. It gives me assets, so everything in my information is all static. However, from this, then we are able to glean a tremendous amount of information from this network. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one there. There we go. Okay. So here we see alert statuses. We have a hygiene score, which is what your risk level is. Okay. The smaller the number, the more risk you have. Number of assets, things like that. Okay. And then we also have insights and network analytic network traffic. Okay. And you can see as you scroll over it, you'll actually even see what the different protocols are and things like that. From here, then we also have our assets list. Now we designed our assets list in such a way so it's better for, I call them the spreadsheet engineers because I was one for a long time. So it looks more like what you would have in an Excel spreadsheet, but we get the model numbers, serial numbers, things like that that are all in the details for these assets. But just overall big picture is we get, you know, any names, if there was a name given, IP addresses, MAC addresses. And then we put things in classifications of OT versus IT. And then also the type of device. So we have PLCs, we have RTUs, engineering workstations, and other various different categories for those. Like if this was a domain controller, that would show up, something like that. Criticality is how important is this device, but in my mind, this is availability. So anything that's a PLC or an RTU is going to be a high criticality, but we go down here to this engineering workstation, it's a medium. Okay, because your system will still run without the HMI working. It's still going to do its job. And then we also have our vendors, and then we can categorize things in various different networks and how it's coming in. And then also we show when the device was last seen. As you can see, my last device wasn't seen in March because that's when I loaded this PCAP file. Going into the details, in the details, we will see, oops, grab one, wrong one. We're supposed to grab one above it. Okay. From the details, then we actually can see model numbers, serial number, firmware versions, things like that, so that it then allows you to actually know what's in your system and then what vulnerabilities are tied specifically to that. We can also show our network traffic and things like that, which was shown on the front map. And then contained in this information also, dependent on protocols, is what we call racks and slots or modules. And this is a Siemens PLC, and it has 3 slots, and we have 2 of the 3 slots populated. And from there, we actually even see what is the model number and serial number and version, firmware version of that specific module. We also see any uploads, downloads, code that's put in this PLC or RTU or whichever, and then can actually display that in regular text. Our vulnerabilities, which is, this is where you determine how much risk are you in right now versus if you make patches or updates. And in the OT world, you don't really patch, you install updates and it changes the firmware. So it fixes a lot of vulnerabilities. but we provide the full match vulnerabilities or just regular vulnerabilities, depending on if you don't have the model and serial number associated with this device. And you can see this device has 20 different vulnerabilities on it that with some firmware updates, then it would resolve these. We show other things, risky assets. I'm looking at one, so this would be my riskiest asset. But then who has privileged operations? Who can read or write, or who can write to this PLC? What other HMIs or something is writing to it? And then also the ports that are open associated with it. All kind of important information whenever you're trying to lock down your system and understand what your communications are. We also, and the secret sauce behind CTD is we use baselines. So we build a list of all the network traffic to and from each device and lock that in. Once that's locked in, then deviations from this baseline, or effectively like whitelisting, then generates alerts. Our next section I'm going to go into is our insights. So from our overall big picture of the 160 assets or whatever that I have here, okay, we have in here what assets have unsecured protocols. You know, FTP, SMB, or Telnet are all relatively unsecured protocols. We list our vulnerabilities and go by either a full match or a vendor and model match or just vendor match, and then we also will show the Windows vulnerabilities. We can have our top 10 riskiest assets. Our risky assets helps you to prioritize what do I need to remediate first so I can reduce my risk. So it lists these, and then you can go through and it gives you the details associated with them, just like we had on the other section. Then also show, you know, and also show modes and things like that. So this PLC is in remote programming mode. So it means that that can be changed on the fly, and something that may or may not actually want to be set in that excuse me, set in that mode. It should typically be in locked mode. Out of all of this information, then we get alerts. Anything that deviates from our normal communications. So the way we do our alerts is we build our alerts in what we call stories. So our stories then show you what's going on. So you'll have, in this case, there was a failed login made, and then there was a configuration upload. Now, if I had a real attack chain built into this, I would see a port scan, then a login or a failed login or something like that, and then a configuration upload, and then a configuration download. That right there is your entire attack chain. And what happens is we've actually, Clarity has found from these stories and the information that we acquire, numerous different new, I call them -1 day attacks, because nobody knows they exist yet. We see the scans, we see what goes on with it and everything. And from there, then we contact the appropriate agencies, ICS cert and vendors and whatever, to inform them that we're seeing something unusual going on. Then they investigate what's going on, and then we'll come out with new vulnerabilities. So like the Stuxnet that they talked about at the beginning, we would have seen Stuxnet at least 5 different ways, because it was moving through the network traffic. It was using different ports and services than normal. It was doing changes to uploads and downloads. There would be differential associated with those. So we would have seen all that as part of the Stuxnet, and then watched every place where it went to the various different centrifuges. Here we also provide the details of the event and who is involved in it. Okay, so we go the to and the from associated with this specific alert. So it allows this to happen, and this can all be sent off to either via email or a SOC or something like that. And with this whole methodology, you don't have to have an OT knowledgeable person sitting in your SOC, because this simplifies it to the point to where they can understand what's going on. Now, one thing about CTD is passive. So since we are passive, we can't stop or change anything on your network. We are not smart enough to know, is it better to stop this device or allow it to run contaminated, in the middle of a batch, something like that. So that's why we do not stop anything and can't change anything in the network. However, one of the other things that we do is we have integration, and we have integrations with several different firewall companies, okay, and several different platforms. And from these integrations, then CTD will send the information to the specific firewall and whoever's running that firewall and managing that firewall, and it provides them the information necessary to they can look at what the alert is, and they can then also look at what happened with CTD sending it, and it will provide them the information for the port services, whatever needs to be shut down on that specific IP address, or it might be a multitude. So that's part of what we also have with our integrations. And we also have integrations where we can send information out to ServiceNow, to CrowdStrike. And also one of the new ones that we have that's not on here yet is the Siemens Cyber Protect. So that's overall big picture of the way CTD works. Can we go back to, yeah, there we go. So overall big picture of this is, we look at the devices, we see what's going on. We have CTD out in the control system network or via span ports, take that information, and then in this case, we can then send that to the integration we have with the Siemens Cyber Protect. Cyber Protect can then take the appropriate actions necessary based on your plant to do what it needs to do. That's my big picture on CTD. And, the whole thing is, we want to identify first, we want to detect first, second, and then the last thing is do that protection. And that protection is done via our integrations. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon or good morning, wherever we are in the world. My name is Wayne Cantrell. I'm a senior principal systems engineer. I reside in Siemens Government Technologies. My background is factory automation, and right now I focus on OT cybersecurity. I spent quite a bit of time on sites that were under cyber attack. In one particular instance, it was about my estimate about 2,000 hours to recover a site. So based off of that, I came up with the thought process that there has to be a better way. So I came up with the Cyber Protect solution, and that's the better way. Cyber Protect is patent pending and trademark pending. It's approved in Europe right now and still in process in the US. One little tidbit of information, as you notice, it is spelled S-I-B-E-R. So from Siemens, if you know Siemens products, we have Cymatic for Siemens Automation, Cynamics for Siemens VFDs. We have Cymotion for advanced motion control. So we have Cyber Protect for cyber protection. Next slide, please. So Cyber Protect is a cyber physical incident response solution. And what we mean by cyber physical is it's one of the only products on the market, or the only one on the market that we're aware of today, that actually takes some physical responses to protect the equipment in the OT space. The main intent is to prevent cyber attacks. For instance, if we detected a credible threat on the IT world, we could essentially close off the entire OT space. stop the spread. So if it's detected at certain locations in the OT space, we can quarantine and allow the OT or production to continue operation. And also by the fact that it is quarantined in groups, it can speed remediation after the cyber attack if it actually occurs, because you can recover in priority order. Next slide, please. So how is it different? And I said it earlier, the difference is it actually takes physical responses to an attack. And Bernie mentioned it earlier, there's a lot of systems that will tell you something is going on, but they don't do anything about it, or at best case, the solutions there today may block an Ethernet port, but nothing to protect the equipment. So that is the key difference with Cyber Protect. It does use automation technology. So at the heart of the response system is an S7 1500. And those of you familiar with our 1500 product lines, they're very, very fast. So you know, we're responding from a credible threat in the very low millisecond time frame. I mentioned it does take physical actions. It also manages and dynamically reconfigures firewalls on the network to quarantine and isolate as necessary based off of the specific requirements of your site. It does provide the site immediate notification. So I'll show you a demo here in a minute with lights and horns that you normally see in the OT space. So the production area knows immediately that something is going on. The other benefit of it is it does provide a capability to interact with multiple threat detection solutions. So Clarity is one of those, and it's very good. If you wanted, maybe a good example would be to tie in IT and OT together. So an IT threat detection mechanism and an OT threat detection mechanism like Clarity, and that would give you a bigger landscape to let you know that an attack is occurring. And it does interact with all equipment when that threat occurs. Next slide, please. So we came up with some use cases. This is just a few. We looked at actual use cases that occurred in the field. So let's say a high priority cyber threat has been detected, and the system is based off of priority. So if Clarity were to send us a low priority threat, we would give a warning light to the production area and take no action. If it's high priority, though, based off of the rule set that you've decided that you want to occur in your facility, when the threat occurs, we would take that action. So if it were a water treatment plant, there was one that Maurizio showed earlier, where someone had actually gained access to a system. They were trying to manipulate the injection pumps, which would have had the effect of poisoning the water supply. So in this case, when we detected that threat, we could interlock those injection pumps to prevent overdosing of chemicals into the water supply system. If it were a power plant, we do this with Siemens CProtect. We can issue an interlock command to CProtect. It essentially puts those power relays into a local mode, and they can be controlled locally, but no malware across the network would be able to manipulate that, because as you know, your closed breakers, close or open breakers, best case, you might stop power. Worst case is you close two that shouldn't be closed, and you destroy all the equipment of the power plant. So that's another mechanism that we have. In a beverage plant, for instance, if the attack were to occur, it could quarantine equipment, so you could finish out the batch, finish out your packaging of the existing batch. And then in a pharmaceutical plant, you don't want invalidated medicine getting out into the public. So at that point, you would issue the appropriate warnings and stop production at that, whatever is appropriate for that site. The overall, though, is Cyber Protect in this case is placing the OT space into a known manageable state. So it's a rule set that you define for your facility when an attack is identified. If you don't put it into a known manageable state, then you'll be at risk at whatever the state the malware chooses to put your site into, which is a bad thing. Next slide, please. So this is an architecture that we have. And you see Clarity at the top, so that's your threat processing engine, and it will provide a isolated message on threat message over to the response system. In this case, we use firewalls that are integrated into the PLC. So one of the features of CyberProtect is it sits out of band, if you will, from the normal network traffic to protect itself. You don't want your protection system to be at risk as well. So we use the firewall capabilities and other capabilities of the threat detection product and the response system to protect the CyberProtect itself. Now, there needs to be another red box on here in the middle, just to the left and below the Clarity threat processing is, in this case, the Siemens RuggedCon product that's actually running the Clarity continuous threat detection engine that Bernie mentioned before. So Siemens is providing those threats up to the processing engine, which is then going to the response system there. Now, once the high priority threat comes in, you'll see just to the left in the threat response box there, a normal light stack and a horn, what you typically would see in a factory that notifies the production area that something is amiss there. And then at the bottom is your response command. So in this case, we're showing a digital signal going to a product like Scalence S, our security products that we can reconfigure firewalls on a digital command from the response system. It can also go to a breaker, as I was talking about earlier. Essentially, whatever mechanism that the devices in your facility are capable of using for protection, we can command that. Essentially, we say we can protect anything with electricity flowing through it. I've showing my age a bit. I did Ethernet systems in plants in the 1990s. If you have been around that long, you know Siemens produced really big Ethernet hubs. We can actually protect that by powering off that hub when the attack occurs. So regardless of the age of your facility, we can supply some cyber protection for that as well. Next slide. Here's an overview as what we've been discussing. So to the left is your Clarity threat detection. That feeds over securely into the CyberProtect threat response system. Then from that, you get site notification, you get equipment management at that stage. It is sub-second response. As I said, it's protected from the normal network traffic, takes multiple advanced threat detection as input. Another feature that we've added is manual activation by a security officer, or it could be a production superintendent or manager. In some cases, we've had customers that have told us we're a little concerned with automatic action. You know, we just discussed that earlier. You either run your own rule set or you're at the mercy of the malware at that point. But if you were to choose that when you saw threats come in, you wanted to decide when you wanted to take action, we have provided a manual activation input by the appropriate administration person there. It does provide a rule-based response system. So this is what is applicable to your specific site. That is configurable on a per site basis, because my experience over the years is that every site is different. And as I mentioned earlier, it can reduce remediation time and can manage the plant equipment during the attack. Next slide, please. What's going to follow? Here's a demo of our system. Clarity is going to provide a threat detection into the system. It just did. Here you see your lights and horns that are activated, letting production know that the threat has occurred. The lights in the lower left are the physical actions that are occurring. So they're simulating signals out to equipment to protect it. We've got a Siemens HMI there, and as we zoom in on it, we will show you the threat and where the threat came from. So you'll know immediately in your facility which device was posing the threat. The little HMI up at the top represents a device in the IT world. That's where we reconfigure the firewall and block the communications like I discussed earlier. And here's just a close-up of the HMI screen in this case that, again, tells you what the threat was and where the threat came from. So it is a OT piece of equipment that's protecting OT pieces of equipment. So the operators and your maintenance people in your facilities are going to recognize and be able to use this solution. Next slide, please. So just to recap the functionality, it integrates with one or more threat detection systems. It can support the IT and the OT simultaneously. It's automation technology, so it responds in real time. It uses, and this is the capability of the threat detection, artificial intelligence and machine learning. One thing that Barry mentioned earlier was, they form a baseline. So if a new device or new traffic is recognized, then that's going to be a threat. Operates with legacy equipment, older equipment in the plant, and it's isolated for its own protection. Then on the response side is very rapid automation responses, prevent and stop the spread of the attack, simplify the remediation if one actually occurs. Hopefully we can prevent that because it is responding so fast. Automatically manage the site equipment to control the attack, and does provide a panic button or a manual input. And again, it allows triage remediation, most critical first. And in my original mention, when I started, I talked about being on site, and it took 2,000 hours to remediate. There was a lot of recontamination during that remediation process. So the fact that equipment groups are quarantined and isolated, this is going to prevent the recontamination until you're ready to join the whole equipment back in a normal state. So that's the functional recap and benefits of CyberProtect. And with that, I think I'll turn that back over to John now.
Thank you, Wayne and Bernie, for your insightful presentations. So to recap what we've discussed today, Engineering USA offers a suite of holistic solutions to help you achieve your OT security goals. Our approach enables you to identify, detect, and protect your systems from risks and vulnerabilities, to respond and recover from cyber attacks, and also enables you to provide your users with secure remote access. Next slide, please. In closing, if you're ready to begin your OT security journey, schedule your assessment today to get visibility into your OT systems, to identify your critical assets, determine the realistic threats to your systems, identify existing vulnerabilities that are in your environment, understand the consequences of compromise, and assess the effectiveness of the current safeguards. You can then leverage the insights from the assessment to determine what risks needs to be addressed first, understand the OT threats and OT vulnerabilities to your plan, intelligently design and apply countermeasures along with the right solutions to reduce risks, prioritize OT security assets, activities, and resources, and evaluate countermeasures based on their cost effectiveness and complexity. Now you might be thinking to yourself, why Engineering USA? And that's a great question to ask. Engineering USA is a partner that you can trust. We're an industry leader in digital transformation. We've helped hundreds of companies successfully modernize their systems and processes. We offer a holistic approach that can help you identify, detect, and protect your OT systems from risks, and also to respond and recover from cyber attacks. With that being said, thank you all for joining us today. We will now do a short Q&A session.
Thank you to all our speakers. We're unfortunately out of time. We're a little bit over as well, so we apologize for that. We do have a few questions, but we're going to make sure that one of our experts reaches out to each of our attendees who submitted a question following the webinar. Ooh, sorry. And to close, I just want to say the recording of today's session will be emailed to all of you in the next days. Thank you for joining. We hope you've gotten some value out of today's presentation, and we look forward to continuing the conversation. Goodbye.